Hey Allen's Petty and Ill-Informed Podcast. Recorded live weekly on YouTube.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and all that can hear the sound of my voice to this week's edition of the Petty and Ill-Informed Podcast, where this week we will be discussing famed UFO serial hoaxer Stan Romanek. Joining me from the sunny slopes of Washington, Kevo.
Hello, everybody. Oh boy, that was too close there. I was trying to. That used to be my pickup line in bars and pubs. Hello, that was too close there, wasn't it?
No. It worked. It flowed naturally with the rest of the show.
Well, we were talking about this before the program that lately, our sort of gaffes and giggles are what kind of makes it for us to have fun. It has been fun. It has been more fun because we've been going through the things that I think other people, prepare for, whereas we don't.
Yeah,
and so
we just wing it. We're petty and ill-informed.
Well, I think that you're going to find a lot of things as with things like that. You can't script out our reactions. So the better reactions are for what they are. Does that make
Indeedy doody. No, I'm totally on board.
Yeah,
it makes perfect sense to me. Shout out to the chat, SoFlo, Gabby, and Psych Toad. Thanks for listening in. Nikki will maybe be joining us, maybe not. Who knows? She's a woman of mystery. It's been an emotional day, co-host wise, for me, guys. An hour ago, I didn't have any podcast co-hosts. Both of them had cancelled, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And now Kevin's here, and Nikki said maybe.
Well, I like I said, they gave me. I always am one of those people who likes to pretend that I'm organized. You know what I mean? And so, whenever I used to do things, it was like, okay, you need to be here by then, and you'd stick stuff in a bag, and that would be it, right? You wouldn't show up with the right stuff, but you just deal with it. So I was called today, and it said you need to be here at this time. So I'm thinking, okay, well, this might be one of those situations where I might be there the whole time, and so I called talked to Richard over the email and said, buddy, I might be stuck and everything like that. Well, it ended up turning out that it didn't take very long at all for once, and so I got home and that's the way it was. I don't like to put you in that spot, buddy, because I know how hard it is, right? But I've had podcasts where I was the linchpin, you know what I mean? And I couldn't deal with it. It's too much stress for me. So that's why I always try to be there for you, because whether anybody understands it or not, I do. But, and I've kind of pride that we've never, that I know of, canceled a week where we didn't plan it ahead of time.
Yeah, I've got plans upon plans. I did have a plan if no one else showed up, and I would have been able to push forward with the show. I mean, we've managed to do it week after week after week. I don't think we've missed a week yet.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. But can I say something? Okay, so I've been watching I'm a Celebrity, right? And apparently, okay. But no, it's in a Welsh castle. I understand why they did. They can't do it in the jungle and all that stuff. But
yeah, they got this pandemic thingy on.
Yeah, that old crap.
That old chestnut.
Yeah. But I mean, it is good that that they've been putting everybody that's a contestant on these programs now. You just basically have to go into a huge bubble. They have to be, located with each other for the whole time of the show. But the amount of Christmas adverts that you are getting on ITV is already huge.
Well, it's not ITV, it's BBC as well. I mean, it's December now.
Yeah, I
We're going
understand.
full Christmas.
Right. But
Channel 5's the worst,
oh,
honestly,
yeah.
for Christmas adverts.
But you can't do anything for Christmas adverts, and yet, and if you were to look at that, you would think that everybody in Britain lived in a 4 or 5 bedroom home with a huge sitting room and dining room. It's like I mean, it's almost like they're portraying it like everybody lives in Downton Abbey. It's amazing the amount of money they expect people to. They portray it as having. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just weird. Yeah.
I don't know why you do it in. Well, I suppose if you want lonely and isolated and a desolate, hopeless place, then you don't. Then Wales is the place for you, really. So it makes
Oh,
sense to have it there.
the castle thing.
Mm.
Well, I suppose that's because I mean Wales would be. I think Wales is one of those places where it's easier to get off the beaten track than it is. You know, you could do it in Scotland, but you'd have to go way up fast. Yeah.
Mm.
You know that, or and you could do it in Northern Ireland too, or the Republic, but then again, uh, Brexit. That's all I can say. I don't even know how that's going to work out with filming things in the Republic now. I don't know, but maybe that's one of those things where I know Vikings was filmed in the Republic, that Viking show, and the 2 spin-off shows from the Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones was filmed in Northern Ireland, part of the Republic, and all. So
Mm.
maybe that's what's slowing it down. But I would have thought that you could have gotten some of those places to host that kind of a program too. There's some of the programs that that's all CGI done. There's the old castle at Mount Stewart, and that's where they film that, like the Ned Stark part, and then but that's all done with CGI on the old castle. But you could just
Hmm.
take the old castle and just put it on in there. I don't know. I don't know. It seems like there's lots of places that you could do it. I don't know. But I was surprised by the amount of pyrotechnics that they had on that program. There was one that when the first episode, it was just like I thought everything was going to start on fire. Anyway, there was nobody. I don't even think other than the guy off Emmerdale Farm. Uh, I didn't even recognize anybody.
I do remember that, Gabby, because I was a big fan of that show, and when they pulled it, I was like, "Oh, that sucks. At least they can go home early." But then it turned out that they all stayed. They filmed the whole thing, and they were there for an entire year, even though the show wasn't aired. I was like, "Wow."
What program was that?
It was called Eden. It's from like 10 years ago.
Oh yeah. Well, if you're yeah, but I mean that's the thing, right? If you do the agreement where you're going to do these reality shows, a lot of times yeah. If you get kicked off the show, you're stuck in a hotel somewhere until it's all done. You
No,
know?
no, no. They didn't air it. They did everything for it, but they just didn't air it.
Oh,
It didn't
oh,
get enough numbers. It was cancelled after 4 or 5 episodes.
oh wow. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but they all still made that thing. There was a big thing this week that it said America's Next Top Model are making $40 an episode or something like that as contestants, and everybody was pissed off on Twitter about it. Yeah, you make scale. If you're on a game show like that or whatever, uh, you make scale. I've known people who have won, like there was Battle of the Bands that was on Spike or something like that. They won it, and they were supposed to get a contract. Johnny Rotten was supposed to give them a contract. That never happened, and they got paid literally minimum they could be paid to be on that program. So you don't want to be on like Bigfoot Barney, like that show. Yeah, those people got paid minimum wage.
I
And they're
believe it. Some
yeah,
of them deserve less than minimum wage, though, to be fair.
yeah, but you can't give people less minimum wage.
Just saying for that show, some of the contestants deserve less than minimum wage.
Well, of course, that's the way that goes. But I'm just saying, everybody says, "Oh, I want to be on TV. I want to be on TV." Well, just yeah. I'm telling you, as a person who's been on TV, uh, the amount of money you get paid to be on TV is not what you think it is. So a lot of people who are on, Ancient Aliens, being an expert or something like that, they're literally getting paid scale to be on that. So, I mean, that's the way it is. Fun little income into that. As a matter of fact, Richard, if you Venmo me $12 at the end of this program, I'll be getting a raise as from what I was to be another. All right. Anyway, so
Fair enough.
we've got this thing up.
Yeah, Graham McKnight sent us a new video.
Okay.
He wanted us to take a look at this one like we did last week.
Right.
So yeah, let's have a little look see, shall we? There's the moon. We're
Right.
zooming in on the moon.
That's cool though.
It's very cool. And we can see a little spaceship hovering over the moon. I thought that was a shadow, but that's not a shadow. That's just one of the craters.
Huh. So that's the thing in question.
Mm.
Is that a UFO or not?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would be interested. The difference between the way that the Earth moves and the Moon moves would lead me to say I'm not expert enough in this to know how it would work. Simply because of the fact that, you know, the Earth turns on its axis and
Yeah.
the Moon doesn't. So this part of the face of this face of the Moon is always facing the Earth, and it's not like it's spinning. It's not. You don't see that. You've never seen nobody's seen the dark side of the moon unless you've uh, literally been there or they took a picture of it or whatever. So
Yeah.
this is the side that's always facing us. So if there was a small asteroid or satellite that was there, would it not act the same way? I guess is my question. And so I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer to if it was there, whether it would be in sort of geosynchronous orbit. I just don't know that much about the moon to tell you that much. Now, a lot of people would say that this effect of going to seeing the moon that clearly from a daytime shot of the moon isn't possible. That's the first thing. Um, so, I mean, I I don't know. Can you zoom in um, to the moon that much, Richard, where you're not seeing the effects of this blue sky anymore? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That, that's the part that bothers me too. So there's two things that bother me. One is that you are zooming from literally the sky that's illuminated in blue to the moon, which seems to be through a high powered telescope at night. maybe or maybe not. I don't know. And two, how would a uh, thing on Earth, how would a satellite of the moon actually work? I don't know that. I don't know that either. Those are two factors that I would want to know, and I don't have enough factors to know.
Well, they've got them super powered zoomy in things these days. I mean, I've seen videos of like people on mountainsides being fully visible, and then the camera zooms out, and it's some dude like 2 or 3 miles away.
Oh no, yeah, no, I know that's true.
Hmm.
My point of the matter is yes, there are high powered optical and digital zoom lenses that are available that will allow you to see small objects uh, on the planet. For example, we've had that in a spy satellite since probably the 70s or 80s. In other words, are on the if you were out from the other side and you are looking down from there, you can take a picture with a camera at high altitude. You could do that in the 40s or 50s or whatever, and go from there. Obviously, so you do know that you can take it from the vacuum of space to land. We could do that. But is that what this is portraying? Can we take a picture from the atmosphere to the vacuum of space or not? I don't know the answer to that because I've never had to. That's not my area of expertise or not. I mean, technically, I would suppose you could do it because you do we do have that type of uh, observatory things available to us. But then again, I don't think again uh, most observatories like that are doing those types of things are doing it at night. And if you could just do it in the daytime, why wouldn't you just do it in the daytime? I don't know. I don't know. I, I just don't know. Uh,
So we don't know, Graham.
no,
That's
no,
that's the official position of the podcast. We don't know.
I
We
don't.
think it's not real for general reasons, but
Yeah, I
we
would
don't.
say my guess would be is um, it could be a couple of things. Could be something around the outside of the planet. I mean, we're not the only people who go to the moon anymore. Obviously, China's been to the moon now,
Hmm.
and all these different things. This is this big battle for the moon. We're back into this sort of big idea for the moon. I don't know. I don't know. It's a funny thing. Let me sit on it. Let me sit on it until next week, and I'll tell you what I really think. How about that?
I guess technically, America only claimed a small portion of the moon.
Well,
Now,
I
if we
don't know.
go,
I don't know how you can claim it. I mean that's the problem. I
they
mean,
stuck a flag in it,
yeah, I understand that. I mean,
unless they didn't. Dun dun dun.
well, I mean, given. I mean, this is the thing, right? Two British guys are talking about how America's only claimed part of the world when we literally 150 years ago claimed the majority of the world. As the sun never sets on the British Empire.
Well, yeah, but in our defense, a lot of people, hadn't developed guns, so we shot them and nicked their land.
Right.
I mean, it seems perfectly fair to me.
Yes. Do you have a flag? There's millions of people living here. Do you have a flag?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's
right.
what you always say about Americans heading west in the 1800s. It's like
Well,
they
yeah,
went out to spread civilization to a far west, which was a huge surprise to the people already living there.
right. That's a manifest destiny. This is the
Yeah.
this is the thing. We don't talk about it. That's the problem. And
Hmm.
that's the thing that's the thing where um, we have determined apparently that was good. and we are not discussing it anymore. So therefore, that's it in a nutshell. Talking about how that may or may not have been a good thing uh, is taboo in America now. I've noticed. So there you go.
Talking about what?
Oh, whether Manifest Destiny, the sort of the Western expansion and things like that were actually a good or bad thing to the native or indigenous types of people, or people who had lived there previously to when these other folks showed up. I mean, and whether or not, in order to expand the land, you would have to use sort of slave labor to do so, and whether that was a moral issue or not, whether
Hmm.
where you should. But we've decided now that discussion of that is harmful to children because they should think that America's awesome and never fucked up in any way, shape, or form. Just like, it's a funny thing because I will understand that because, whenever I was, whenever I lived in Northern Ireland and I went down to Kilmainham jail in Dublin with a friend of mine who was uh, an ex sergeant in the army. I'm not going to talk about what regiment or anything like that. I'm not even say his name, but a good colleague of mine. We went down to there, and the amount of crap that we were fed about the British Army. We were both sitting there, right? It was at this place that they pricked her with bayonets and blah 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 blah. And we were sitting down there. He had an English accent. I had a Northern Irish accent, and uh, basically, it was just told to us and from one standpoint, and at no time was it ever said that. So, of course, they asked for questions from the with asked for questions from the group at one point in time, and I said something like, uh, "So did did the British soldiers ever do anything other than prick people with bayonets, or that was the only thing?" You know what I mean? It's like that whole idea of I was the bad guy, and that was the way it was. So that's fine. People can people can teach whatever they want to, but at some points in time, you do have to realize that if it's so sort of jingoistic and good for one person, it's probably bullshit. You know what I mean? It never works out where there's one party that's right and one party that's wrong. Although, welcome to America now, because that's definitely what it is. You know,
Because it's like that, and that's the way that it is.
right? It's the way that it is, and there will be people who will say, "Oh, look at this. This is terrible." And then in 4 years, 50% of the people will say, "Well, look at this. This is terrible." And then they'll say, "Look at this. This is 50%. It's terrible." But it's an interesting question, right? If you look at the state of America now, you could you can sort of say it's like uh, Italy in the 1920s and 30s. You've got that sort of idea of that sort of two parties. We're very afraid of one or the other party. One is a right wing fundamentalist uh, agitator group. The other one is communists. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right?
Yeah,
E- Either you're a Democrat communist because you can't be a Democrat and anything else, or
obviously,
yeah, or you're a Republican, i.e., right wing fundamentalist religious extremist.
because Republicans can't be anything else.
Yes, they have to be fascists. So fascists and Republican, fascists and communists. That's where we're at in America now.
And on that bright note, let's
Yeah.
move on to the old topic for tonight.
You know who else loved communists? UFOs. If you think about it, right? You know, the wasn't there a guy who was like the mayor or the big honcho at like the FSB or the KGB who said that there was a UFO that came down and then talked to him for a while.
Yeah,
There was something
Arthur
like that.
Conan Doyle believed in fairies as well.
Oh yeah, well,
I mean, there's plenty of examples of really smart people making really stupid statements.
fairies are just UFOs. Fairies are just ETs, brother. I'm just telling you that right now. It's just an ancient interpretation of what we now
Boom. There
know.
we go. Kevin's hot take: fairies are ETs.
I'm deadly serious. I'm there.
We're moving forward under that assumption that fairies are aliens, ETs, and that's the way it is.
That's the way I look at it. That's the way I look at it. From my limited and uh, weird experiences, that's how I would classify it. I could be completely wrong. But on that note, talking
Stan
about
Romanek.
yeah,
So like, I found this guy completely by accident when I was looking into something else. And this dude is the UFO community's Todd Standing. Like, well, Todd Standing and Rick Dyer combined. There's He's got a whole long list of serial hoaxes that he's done, several videos that were obviously staged. He did an interview once live on television where he chucked things at his face, and you can see his hand moving. I can't show the video because it's copyrighted to like. A lot of his videos, the rights to them are owned by a production company now, and you can't find them for love nor money on YouTube. But I can show you a still. I'll do that now of his most famous video, which is the Boo video. Where is it? There it is. This is his famousest video. Hello?
yeah. No, I'm not. I don't. I'm not, am I supposed to be seeing something? It looks like a windy. It looks like a window with a thing in front of it, and there. Oh, okay. So basically, what you're saying is that that's the top of his. Okay, so if I'm looking in the center of the film, the
Hmm.
two eyes are in the center of the window roughly, and that's a head, a large sort of bulbous head in the
Well,
thing,
if I was able to play the video, the head actually moves from left to right.
right?
It's like a puppet or something. I mean, this is a very grainy still. As I said, all of his videos are copyrighted so heavily I can barely find them.
Right.
But the whole
Well,
thing started in the year 2000 when this dude said, yeah, he was abducted by alien,
mhm,
as you
right,
do. He's
right,
just driving along the streets of Aurora, Colorado. I've been to Aurora; it's a nice town, and he just gets beamed up into space.
right. Yeah. Well, Aurora is, if I'm remembering right, Aurora is like sort of, because Colorado's a wee bit different from a lot of different places, but Aurora is in the four corners area of Colorado.
Yeah.
It's very flat and well, not really necessarily flat, but there's a lot of weird shit that goes on in Aurora. If you really think about it, there was the crash before that was supposedly in Aurora that had something to do with some different things, and then there was supposedly a crash in Aurora, and there was supposedly around that same area there was the guy who officer, I can't think of his name. No, there's a guy who was an officer who witnessed an egg-shaped craft taking off. Officer Zamora is his name.
Hmm.
Zamora and those were all around in that same area. So it's funny to say that around that sort of uh, northern New Mexico, Southern California, I mean southern uh, Colorado area. Uh, it's really kind of weird. I've seen some weird stuff up there, but I accounted for that as being some kind of a strange lightning effect, almost like a not ball lightning, but like a waterfall lightning. I don't even know how to describe it, but it was weird, super weird. But yeah, it's weird. You can see weird effects that come off the desert like that. But I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if you were going to pick a place to hoax, that would be the place to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah, there's a lot of weird. Well, it's right next to the mountains as well. It's very weird area, and a mile high as well. I
Right.
got really bad altitude sickness when I moved to Colorado.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
anyway, I'm talking
you've
about
got,
this too.
yeah, you've got lots of different places that are sort of spiritual in nature to a lot of native
Mm.
folks there too. You've got the canyons of the Canyons National Park that are right close to there on the other side, and that sort of plateau. They kind of call it the plateau where Costa Mesa Verde is, and all those different places. A lot of those things where you're trying to look for the southwestern peoples, you know, geoglyphs and those different types of things. That's where they are. So it's an awesome place. You should go there if you're into any kind of weird sort of spiritualism or whatever. It's a cool place. So I recommend it. It's not that far from Sedona either, really, as the crow flies. So, uh, anyway, Richard, you should come over here and we'll totally zen out.
Well, right, yeah. So this whole thing started in the year 2000 when he claims to have been abducted um, by aliens and if our memory serves, he claims he was returned wearing women's clothing. Uh, I think it was a dress that he claimed he came back in.
Yeah, right.
Like, from then, it sort of exploded on every year. The story just got bigger and bigger. He claimed that aliens were following him home and he was in telepathic contact with an alien and, they were hanging around his house. He's got more than one video. This is the Boo video. There's another one with an alien peeking around a corner.
Mm-hmm.
But that one's very obvious that it's a puppet.
Right.
And the story just gets bigger and bigger until in 2008, he takes a lie detector test, to prove once and for all that this video is genuine, and he fails on the question that asks if this video is a hoax or not.
Right. Right.
Now, obviously, lie detectors aren't 100%. He at the time he said he failed because of medical conditions, but eventually he started saying that the government had rigged the test.
Right. Well, I mean, here's the thing about lie detector tests. Anybody that's taken one knows a couple things. If you've ever researched it, right? You can always make a test inconclusive, and that's what people do. You see what I'm saying? What you're trying to do is you're trying to take the galvanic skin response from the other side, from your skin and everything like that. So they ask you a question like, okay, what's your name? My name's Kevin. It's going to be normal, and then the other responses are changed. However, if, for example, because a lot of these things have a thing that goes under your bottom as well, if you just basically sit on a lie detector and continue to clench your butt muscles the whole time of the test, it'll come up as inconclusive because you're basically you're controlling the whole thing. Everything gets thrown out, right? Because
Hmm.
there's no. What you've got to do is you've got to see the difference between the yes and the no answer, and that's why they're not. That's why you can't use them in court. That's why you can't take a a lie detector into court because it's not wasn't never meant to that. It wasn't to the specification that they thought it was. A lot of people just take a lie detector because they say, okay, um, yeah, okay, I'm gonna. If somebody says to you, "Will you take a lie detector?" That's just to see whether you're going to confess before you hook it up to the lie detector. And if you take the lie detector, they know that that's really not it. It's a case of public opinion. You know what I mean? I mean, it's amazing to me that we accept what we want to from a lie detector test and don't accept what we don't want to. Right? Bob Hieronymus passed uh, a lie detector test saying that he was Patty in the Patterson Gimlin film. Passed
Justin
it.
Spehar passed the test.
Yeah, and and it's all because the interpretation of it is there. And again, um, a lot of that has to do with again. I would say that Bob Hieronymus wasn't using any kind of evasive evasion tactics, and Schmeha was, and that's how they said it was inconclusive. Maybe he did it. You know what I mean? And a lot of
Hmm.
that has to come down to who did it. I don't know for sure. Don't quote me on that. This is not from personal knowledge. Nobody. Don't,
No, no, no.
don't,
Kevin's saying for sure that
no,
Justin Spehar faked his test.
no. I'm
This
saying.
is breaking news.
Well, people have told me that, but I think that it's interesting to say uh, that whenever you're passing on these sort of statements like this, that you just have to say, I have no knowledge of that personally. This is just what people have said in conversation about it, and and we may not know. But I think at this point in time, there's a lot of people who don't hold a lot of credibility in Justin Smaya's story.
No,
So
I never believed it.
yeah,
Any hunter knows his salt has heard a few Bigfoot stories. And if you shot one, you sure as hell wouldn't bury it and forget where you buried it.
right, right. And the reason that he didn't take it with him was because there was people looking. He believed that there were people that were going to check his tag, and he
Hmm.
didn't have a tag for it.
Well, they don't make tags for Bigfoot, do they?
Right, right. I mean, I get that, but what I'm saying is if you, I mean, the story is that it was so human like that he was afraid that it, he would have been convicted of murder uh, or some kind of manslaughter or something like that. So again, um, if you think you've committed manslaughter in the woods, bury it and then say nothing about it. That's the one thing we've learned from Justice Schmea is if he wings somebody in the woods, uh, he's going to take off your orange smock and throw a bunch of shit on top of you and maybe come back for you another day.
In the spring when the snow melts.
Yeah. I mean, and this is why people always say to me, why do you take guns on you when you go into the woods?" This is why, you know, because people will obviously cover crap up in the woods if they can get away with it. I mean that's how I look at it.
It makes perfect sense. And yeah, so no, where was I? All right, yeah. So he failed a lie detector test in 2008. Then a couple of years later, he said he'd found an alien implant under his skin,
Uh huh.
and a TV company offered to test the metal of it for him, but it mysteriously disappeared.
Hmm. Of course.
The government took it, obviously.
Yeah, but what I find interesting was is that the transvestite alien police picked him up, and he he was abducted in one set of clothes and was brought back in ladies' clothes. And I just wanted to know, were they the right size? I mean, what I know
No,
is
I know the answer to this. They were actually too big.
they were too big.
He said that they were really baggy on him when he came back.
Oh, so he didn't feel pretty so much.
Hmm.
I mean,
Felt a bit,
that's
felt a bit flabby.
you know how hard it is for a man. I mean, just in general, a man in general, to find a dress that would fit him. I mean, as we all know, if you've gone on a stag night or any kind of a weird night downtown in any British town, and you've had to look for a dress to put on while you're going on the stag to celebrate your friend's wedding or whatever, it's pretty hard to find a dress that'll fit you. You know what I mean? Even if you're a
Hmm.
small little petite man. And so, I mean, obviously, what I'm saying is I'm not opposed to men dressing up like women. We, a lot of us have done it, but all I'm saying is especially either for a gag or because they like it. But it's pretty hard to say. I just find that was interesting that he came back dressed as a lady, and he didn't, and it was too baggy for him, and that was. Although I will say this, you wouldn't want to necessarily come back to Earth in that neck of the woods dressed as a woman.
He wouldn't like that at all. I heard that there were over 100 cases of forced transvestitism involving Mr. Romanek in the 2000s.
Oh, really?
No, it was a Father Ted line.
Starting with this, starting with this sort of thing.
Careful now.
Exactly, exactly. I'm sure that it wasn't I'm sure that it's one of those. It's a very rural sort of. I would always put it like the heartland of America. Where you have conservative values and everything like that. Although in a small town, it's always a funny thing. If you're a small town kid in a small town like that, normally they're going to let you get away with whatever you are. Uh, if you're not trying to like push it onto anybody else. But apparently, this is just like the aliens dressing them up. Like,
I wonder if that's what happened if he was just like a transvestite and this whole thing was just an elaborate cover for it.
yeah, that's what I mean. I mean. If you want my honest opinion,
Yeah.
that's what it is. That he just liked dressing up like a lady, and so if that's the way it is, obviously if he were putting these things on to represent it as whatever, that's the way it is. I mean, yeah. J. Edgar Hoover was supposedly like to dress up like a woman, and it's just the way it is. Some people like it, some people don't. That's the way it is. I mean, you get crap because I mean, I obviously wear a kilt. I've worn a kilt. A lot of people call that a dress. Um, and I'll say in one thing: when you're out in the middle of the desert, it's a great thing to have, dude. Just you know, rather than having.
Notoriously, there are, of course, a lot of deserts in Scotland and Northern Ireland.
No, I know, but the kilt is not. The kilt is not of an Irish design. It's either of an Indian or Egyptian design. They had kilts way before anybody in Northern Ireland or England, had them. Uh, Historically, Celtic people did not wear kilts, but at some point in time they came in. But kilts are a very desert or very hot climate dress. I mean, obviously Sumerians wore kilts, Egyptians wore kilts, and that's why. I mean, because you want to let the boys breathe. That's what I'm saying. and it's a very, very easy way to go to the bathroom. If you if you're in the Highlands of Scotland and they're made out of wool, you just sort of crouch down and you go to the toilet and you stand up and then you're done. That's it. That's the way that goes. Yeah, but
That's the way she goes.
it is too cold in Northern Ireland to wear a kilt. I'm not going to lie about that. It's too cold.
Like a cool breeze on your nethers.
Yeah, but if it's a hot day or whatever, or you're in the hot place, it's a great. It's wonderful. But you don't, obviously,
Not in the winter.
no.
You'd have
But
to be a special core, hardcore kilt fanatic to
yeah,
wear one in the winter.
yeah. Well, I was reading something the other day that it says if you've never said it's too bloody or effing freezing outside, you're not actually a true Brit.
True enough.
I mean that it. I mean, people say, "Oh well, used to live in Alaska or something like that," and I just say, I don't know what it is about Scotland, the north of England, or whatever. For some reason, it can get Baltic so fast on, and the way that it is, it's just like it's like the combination of the rain and the wind and whatever. Just literally, it's just I don't know. Have you noticed that, Richard? That it's just so cold you just can't even function, and you
I've
can't
never
even.
felt that cold.
You've never felt that cold? That's good.
No.
All right.
Anyway, so oh damn it, I've lost my plot. Okay, here we go. So he fails a lie detector test. He loses the alien implant. He goes on to do some TV interviews. He's caught throwing things at his face. He goes on to apologize again. The government made him do it to discredit him. The government's really been like the architect of this man's destruction at this point. There he is, trying to tell his story about how the aliens are messing with him and the government is stopping him at every turn. Well, in 2014, the government pulled their most dastardly move ever.
And what was
They
that?
planted child pornography
Oh.
on Mr. Romanek's computers.
Uh-huh.
And he was caught. It was all that dastardly government put all that child pornography on his computers, and he was arrested and is in prison for 15 years for felony, sex offending.
Yes. Now, what I find interesting about this, because I was actually watching a program about this the other day. Right. They were talking about this 24 hours in police custody in Manchester or something. You've probably seen that show or whatever. But they were talking about these people that were computer sort of pedophiles or pedophiles, just depending on where you're from. And you're looking at these images, right? It's not that you've looked at the images per se. That's the problem. It is the fact that a lot of these people are using their computer almost like you remember whenever your computer was used like a server for files that you used to, they used to use that for music, LimeWire or something like that, like
Yeah.
LimeWire or Napster, right? It would actually turn your computer into a file sharing system. In
Yeah.
other words, you downloaded this file that you were listening to or whatever, and then because of the way that is, that would look through your files and share it along. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the system that they're using for this. So it's not like, okay, I'm going to quote unquote, uh, this is my pornsite.com, and you're looking at images, and therefore that's it. Because a lot of times they're making the claim these women or males or whatever are over 18. You're over 18. So therefore you're looking at these images, which may be illegal in your country, or not, just depending on your just jurisdiction. But this is actually where you're taking these very, very different images and then sharing it through a network. So it's very, very hard for, let's say that, for the government to actually do that. A lot of people who say these conspiracy theories, they say, okay, well, that's the way it is, and blah, 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 blah. That's a bunch of bull crap. The government's not putting it on your computer and doing that.
But
And
why wouldn't they? The dude was trying to prove aliens exist, and the government is totally against that.
yes, yes, that's why they came out by saying, yeah, we've seen UFOs. We can't
That's why they
explain.
started Project Blue Book. That's why. It's all wheels within wheels, Kevin. They're playing
Yes,
4D chess in a
yes,
way we just can't see.
right. But why is it? Why is it that these I'm not saying that anything is strange, but why is it that these folks seem to have some weird um, kinks? I mean, is it? I mean, like I said before, is it that we all have these weird kinks and we just don't know, or is it, that that basically just uh, some groups have more kinks in it? You know what I mean? But my point of the matter is thank goodness I have never find anything like that even mildly appealing or appropriate to look at, or I never had any curiosity to do it. But these people who are looking at that, they need to be able to find help. I mean, that's the way I look at it. They need to be able to find help. And where would you look for something like that, Richard? Where would you go? I don't know. I mean, I
I
know I'm
don't
trying to.
know. It's a tricky subject, that, isn't it? On the one
Yeah,
hand, obviously, we don't want them actually hurting any children. But on the other hand, if they haven't actually done anything wrong, and if they're born that way, what do you do about it? I mean, that's the new thing, isn't it?
right.
That they're trying to sneak into the alphabet people by calling themselves maps, minor attracted people.
Yeah,
And it's like,
yeah. I mean, it's a strange thing
a
because,
mental illness, Gabby says. And yeah, I believe that.
well, part of it is a mental illness, and I agree with that. But what I'm saying is that for some reason, as time has changed, that I spend a lot of time on medieval stuff, right? I mean,
Hmm.
when you're looking at sort of the age of Romeo and Juliet and those different types of things, her being literally 13, 12 going on 13, you know. And if you look at the age of Henry VII's mother when she gave birth to him, Elizabeth Beaufort, I think her name was, she being like 12 whenever she gave birth to Henry VII, uh, that obviously in medieval times, this was not weird that you have these sort of attractions to these sort of prepubescent body shapes and types, because you literally had a lifespan of what, 30 or something like that. And so I mean, I'm not trying to explain it, but what I'm saying is that as we have obviously expanded our life, uh, um, life length, the age of consent changes. Like I'm saying, I think that I mean, even whenever I was growing up, there was a state in America. I'm not sure. Yeah, it seemed to me like there was a southern state in America where you could get married if you were 13, if you had your parents' permission. You know what I mean? And so, is that, what I'm saying? So it's weird to me. It's the whole thing is weird to me. We seem to have some very double standards that we don't want to talk about in America, but or Britain or wherever, about these relationships that we've entered into. So we think, oh well, that's the way it is, and that's the way it it has to be. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I'll shut up.
No, it's a naughty problem, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I'm not. I mean, that's what I'm saying is that obviously from that standpoint, demonization is the first thing that comes to mind because to the average person, you're thinking to yourself, "Oh, that's terrible." You know what I mean? It sort of just literally retches at you as your gut reaction, just being like, "Oh, that's
I
terrible."
mean, any of them that actually act on their impulses, they should be shot. I mean, there's nothing else to be done with them as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
But the ones that don't and like live with it, I mean, don't know. I mean, you can't put them in prison. It wouldn't be fair. But are they just walking time bombs? Hmm. It's a knotty problem. And this show's gone way, way off topic.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We were
I know.
talking about a UFO hoaxer, and now we've how to cure pedophilia. How did that
Oh, no,
happen?
I'm not asking. I'm not asking you to. I'm not
Not
asking.
with punishment, with gunishment.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Okay. The age of consent. Just so I'm looking at it. Okay. The lowest age of consent is 11 in Nigeria, 12 in the Philippines, and Angola and Burkina Faso is 13. So that's
That's
strangely,
gross.
yeah, that is very, very strange. And uh, the youngest age in anyway, I'm not gonna read it. But my point of the matter is we've got some screwed up.
We're just like we've just gone down a black hole here that I
No,
just
I
want to
understand.
get.
I understand. I understand. I think if Nikki was here, which she wasn't, but she would have left us back on track.
She would have stopped this from happening.
Yeah, she would have said, "No, we're not talking about that."
She'd have got us back onto steam powered submarines.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's a, you know. So this cat here, he's living in jail now. When's he going to get out? When's he's trying to get out?
His first parole date is 2038.
Oh, so he's well and truly aft, as it were. I would
Yeah,
imagine
well,
that he's going to die in jail.
probably. I mean, they take that very seriously, but it was that damn government. Maybe he'll die in prison. Maybe they'll fake his death so he can go to Hong Kong to fight crime for them.
Exactly.
It was the
Exactly.
plan the whole time.
Yeah.
That'll wrap us up for this week. We will return next week, despite the hopes of many. What do you want to talk about next week, Kevin?
Not pedophilia. That's for
Not this.
no,
Anything
no.
but this.
Well, I'm thinking. Uh, I, I mean, we didn't really talk about the subject of this. Should we talk about famous cases of UFOs and see whether we think it's fake or not? Like the
Yeah, all
people
right.
the people who were in Italy, and they became the friendship group, and they were supposedly calling in the aliens and talking to them for years. I mean, lots of good. I mean, we never talk about UFOs in conjunction with Europe. I'd like to talk about European UFO sightings and whether they're any good. That's what I like. I mean, yay or nay on that? We could change it.
I said, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, famous European UFO stuff next week. Same pod channel, same pod time. No, that didn't
Right.
work. I regret that. All right.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you guys later.
That was pretty rotten.
Disco.